Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. And this video is to bring you a closer look at the Segal number SE15332. This is a surface mount deadbolt. This is the classic Segal style that has been just really, something that's been omnipresent in the door hardware sort of deadbolt industry for just forever. Just really great sort of deadbolt. Tried and trusted by all types of people for years and years and years, for decades, as a matter of fact. So let's talk about it. The SE15332, that means that it is a single cylinder deadbolt, meaning it's got a thumb turn on the inside, that it is in the brushed chrome sort of finish, which is not the traditional color, that it includes both an angle strike, a flat strike, and then a rim cylinder for the outside in the same brushed chrome finish with two original Segal keys. Okay. Where these are used, residential applications is where you see these. Most commonly, apartment doors have them on the inside, in addition to the existing lock sets that is there. People that use them in commercial settings might apply them to a side entrance door on a commercial building. It's not, an emergency exit or access during normal business hours. It might just be a utility or service door. And people use the Segal deadbolt because they've come accustomed to the durability, the quality, the security level, the fact that they're simple mechanisms and just work for decades, and they do so in a very reliable fashion. The item includes all of its constituent parts requirements as well, which is really screws for both of those strikes, depending on however you go with it. Okay. Screws to hold the body on, two screws for the back of the cylinder, a cylinder retaining cup or ring, and then a cylinder trim ring, and then of course the backing plate that is used when mounting the outside cylinder. So let's go over all of this stuff. There is a link below this video to the instructions, and if you would open that up, we will begin with the beginning of this. I've installed these many times, and they're really straightforward and easy to install. It's really nothing other than determining your back set, drilling your hole through the door, and then modifying your tailpiece and screws for the cylinder for the proper thickness of door. So, page 1 of this instruction sheet, and granted it is a bit tough to read, however instructions will be included with the item. So there is a list in the upper left hand corner of those items that are necessary to have on hand. A center punch you're going to want to have so that you can accurately mark your holes before you start to drill into the door. You don't want your pre-drill holes to walk at all. A center punch will help eliminate that. A hammer you'll need. 1 3/8" hole saw, that is going to be used for drilling through the door for the rim cylinder. Obviously an electric drill, 1/8 inch drill bit, that's for pre-drilling all your holes. Slotted head screwdriver, and that is going to be for nothing here. It's all Phillips. Number 2 Phillips is what you're going to need. Pliers and a hacksaw. You'll need those for sure. I'll show you why in a moment. Straight edge and level, more so for measuring accurately the back set, and masking tape. Masking tape will be there to hold the included template onto the door, which is part and parcel of your instructions, which in the link below this video to the instructions, you can see them at the bottom of page 3, so I won't pull them off. But the masking tape is to apply that directly to the door. You'll get it with your lock. Now, a good thing to probably start with, although I generally don't start with it with this aspect, but they do here, is cutting, and this is your plier hacksaw requirement, the length of the tailpiece and the screws for the proper door thickness. Let's just assume that you need an material made up for an 1 3/4 door. You will cut to the middle line of this tailpiece on the cylinder for an 1 3/4 door. You go to the brake B, and then on the screws to the brake Y, which is the outer brake. You're not going to want to try to bend those with pliers. You want to carefully cut them. Cut them to the right length, measure twice, cut once. Then you move on to step 1, and step 1 is cut out the appropriate installation template and tape it to the inside of the door at the desired height of the lock. When you're locating it height-wise, maybe be sure to match what other doors might already have in a space. You don't want to have an unusually odd distance from the bottom lock to where your deadbolt is, either inside or outside the door. Take care to position the template properly. That's really critical to make sure that the template is positioned properly. Aligned to the edge of the door, not the frame, and use a straight edge and level to ensure it is placed perfectly level on the door. Tip: use care when taping to ensure that the tape does not damage the finish of the door. Okay, what they're saying about the template is this. The template's got to be level, perfectly level. And the hole has to be drilled completely straight. 2 reasons. When the key turns in the cylinder, that tailpiece needs to be laser beam straight so that when it engages to the back side of the lock, okay, that there is very free operation, that this turns correctly. If the hole is not drilled correctly and the cylinder is not level, you will find that it's not going to allow a proper operation. Now, the fact that they want the template to be level on the door is because imagine when these bolts drop or retract. Imagine if the axis was not vertical. Imagine if it was like this. It'd be all but impossible to be able to, do an installation, where everything was crooked. So you've got to be sure that your template is completely level. Step 2, place the point of the center punch directly on the center of the 4 small mounting holes in the large cylinder hole marked on the installation template and strike with a hammer to transfer the marks onto the surface of the door and the door trim. Center punch is really good. Sometimes there are automatic ones. And you're going to take your template and mark those 5 holes. Or I'll just take a nail and a tack hammer and just tack those 5 holes. I just want to make a little indent so that my drill bit has a place to find the exact center of where I want to drill. Then drill 1 3/8 diameter hole through the door. Take care to ensure that the drill is level. We talked about that earlier. And that the hole is straight through the door. Bore the hole to the point of the tip breaking through the opposite side of the door, and finish boring out the hole from the opposite side to reduce splintering of the hole. So as you're coming through your door with a hole saw, let's say, or an 1 not that you'd have an 1 3/8 multi-spur bit, but those bits, when they eject out the other side of a door, they don't leave a clean hole. So you're going to want to come through real straight, let the pilot bit of your hole saw pierce through, come around, and finish the hole off. You'll be in good shape. Step 4, carefully drill the 4 smaller mounting holes. And this is obviously on the inside of the door. That's what you need, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the hole for the tailpiece. That's your 5th hole. Step 4, carefully drill the 4 smaller mounting holes with your 1/8" drill bit in the inside of the door to a depth of 3/4 inch. Use care to limit the depth to 3/4 inch to avoid drilling completely through the door. Absolutely. Moving on to page 2. Pardon me, page 3 technically. Step 5, if you've already modified your tailpiece and your screws, you're good to go. At this point, you're going to take your cylinder, if you've already cut that to length if necessary, You're going to take your trim ring, and then per the instructions that are included is where you're going to take your backing plate and attach that to the inside of the door in step 7. So step 5 is done. Step 6 we just did, put it through the hole. Step 7, position the steel backplate on the inside of the door. Insert the 2 connecting screws into the holes adjacent to the large hole in the center of the backplate and thread them into the holes in the back of the cylinder. Using a screwdriver, tighten the screws, making sure the backplate is positioned 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the door and the 4 small mounting holes are accessible. So per your template, these holes should line up here, 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 and here, and the hole for your tailpiece. Your tailpiece will come through like this, and through these 2 holes is where you will use the cylinder screws, already cut down to length if necessary. Now, the fact that this ring is included is not called out in the instructions, but you could use this as well. It's a very common thing to use. Although, this is the plate that is used for this. Step 8, with the deadbolt in the unlocked position, push and hold in the shutter guard and replace the lock case cover over the back plate. So what they're saying is, when this plate is attached to the door, you're going to bring this body over it. You're going to push this in and get it pushed down over. Truth of the matter is, just place it on there is what you're going to do. Then, moving on to page 4, step 9, holding the lock in place. Operate the lock from both the inside and the outside to ensure smooth operation. If binding is encountered, recheck everything. Recheck the level. Check that your cylinder's not too tight. Check that the tailpiece is not too long and bottoming out inside of the lock housing itself. Check for that as well. As it says, retrim the tailpiece as necessary. Once you've ensured proper smooth operation, go ahead and step 10, apply your 4 2-inch screws. Step 11 is pretty straightforward. Set the lock in place, set the lock strike in place, and set the lock in the locked position. If angle strike is used, it must be mortised into the jamb. Align the strike on the door jamb and the lock strike centered on the bolt. Make sure there is no interference between the bolt and the strike when operating the lock. Mark the position of the strike and then unlock the door and open it. Mark the center of the mounting holes for the strike and drill 1/8-inch holes where marked. It may be necessary to shim the door frame or to mortise out the frame for proper strike alignment. So what they're saying here in this case is, if you've got an in-swinging door, and it's very likely that you do, the angle strike is the strike to use. In-swinging door. Now, below step 12, which is the same kind of stuff as step 11, you're going to see how the angle strike works. If you have an in-swinging door, you can get away with using this. Okay. If you have an in-swinging door, and you can also accommodate your flat strike, you're certainly welcome to use that as well. You can see that that strike is not, or those holes are not centered in the base, and that's by design. You'll notice that one way you'll have a proper alignment with it, and the other way you would not. Okay. If you have an outswinging door, you could still use all of this. You're going to want to be, careful how you're mortising for it. The template, let's talk about an outswing door. The template does not call out the proper back set for an outswing door. You're going to need to modify that. In that sort of case, you're probably going to want to get the strike applied to the frame, as I've done it in the past. Get the strike applied to the frame, and then make sure that you've got that attached in the proper location based on where the door is going to, the lock is going to be attached to the face of the door. So the strike will be sticking off of the stop, hanging into the opening. And then the body will be surface mounted to the face of the door. And you're going to want to make sure that you've got everything lined up so that that works correctly, because there's not a template provided for that. But I've done it with complete success. It's not an issue, except that you need to very accurately line up your holes. Okay, when I've done it, gotten this placed onto the face of the door, getting it lined up as accurately as possible. It's the kind of thing where it's handy to have an extra set of hands to help, because you want to hold the strike onto the frame. You want to make sure that the lock is at the proper back set so that you've got smooth operation, okay, and then mark your holes and drill. So the flat strike only for an outswing application. The instructions here again don't call out that specific installation. But if you have an in-swing, that angle strike is very commonly used, as is the flat strike is as well. The angle strike is liked a lot because you get screws not only in this face, but you get them in this face as well. Okay. So you're able to really grab a lot of the frame and do so in such a way that you are improving the kick-in resistance when you're using screws from here and from here for your installation. And per the instructions, it's really just a matter of the body's already on the door for your in-swing installation. You're now going to kind of line up by eye where the strike needs to be. You're going to mark that off, and then you're going to chisel it into the wood frame. It's very typical that you're doing a replacement anyway. However, a lot of people order this material for new installations because they're comfortable with the quality of it. Step 12 was place the strike over the holes on the frame. Operate the lock again to ensure alignment. Attach the strike to the frame using the supplied 3/4 inch screws and a screwdriver. And at that point, the installation is pretty much done. If you are an industry professional like a locksmith who install these for clients, you can get this sort of installation down to 45 minutes, and taking your time to make sure it's perfect. And I've had jobs where I've done 10 of these in a row, and you can almost do it just on autopilot at that point. Now, Segal, these locks are available in a variety of, in a few different combinations. Obviously, you can get double cylinder where there's a key on the inside. You can order these with the strike only, the flat strike only, with the angle strike. The bronze material, that bronze finish is by far the most common of this color for this material. Also, it is to be noted that Segal also has a slam style version of this, where this angle strike is changed with like arrowheads, 3 projectiles with a arrowhead, and then the bolt changes to where you can actually just push the door closed and it will automatically relock. Slam type is what they call it. It's like what we call it, what they call it. You can get that in both single cylinder and double cylinder. Moving on forward, Segal also makes available replacement parts, the springs, the screws, the strikes themselves, different colors. They also make deadlock shim plates, meaning that there is a backer plate that can go on behind this. If for some reason you have an unusual circumstance that you need to build it off the face of the door, you can finish that off with your shim plate as well. They also have cylinder guard plates, which is a very thick piece of steel that mounts over the face of the cylinder, and that prevents tampering, or the attempted break-in. Those part numbers are SE15332 would be a typical part number for this. SE15331 if it's in chrome. You'll see that it's a rectangular plate that literally sits over this and bolts through the door, not allowing you to get to the cylinder. It is really a nice lock. I like them because they're very resistant to abuse and to break-in, more so I think than a lot of other locks. and because they're surface mounted, you can kind of control really well how you go about anchoring it to the door. I have also even installed these where I was doing through bolts through the door, where I had to source obviously very small 832 sorts of sex bolts and make it very strong through the door that way as well. Real durable stuff. So, if you have any questions on the Segal SE15332 single cylinder surface mount deadbolt or any other Segal product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.